The stars were quiet in this part of space. No one had ever come here before. No human, no alien, no ship of any kind. It was empty and dark and cold, millions of kilometers from the nearest colony. This was the kind of place where nothing ever happened. But today, something would happen, something that would change everything. The survey ship moved slowly through the darkness. It was not a big ship. It was not a powerful ship. It was just a simple vessel made for science and exploration. The hull was thin. The weapons were small. The engines were old but reliable. 47 people lived and worked inside its metal walls. Captain Park stood on the bridge and looked at the main screen. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been in space for 30 years. He had seen many things, but he had never seen anything like what his sensors were now showing him. "What is that?" he asked quietly. The chief engineer looked up from her console. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and quick hands. She had built half the systems on this ship herself. "I do not know, Captain," she said. "It is big, very big, and it is not natural." The object on the screen was a ship, but it was like no ship any human had ever seen. It was black and covered with strange shapes, spikes and curves and angles that made no sense. It was beautiful in a terrible way, like a storm or a fire. "Is it moving toward us?" asked. Minyu, the young communications specialist, checked his readings. His hands were shaking a little. "Yes, Captain, it is coming fast." Felt his heart beat harder. In all his years in space, he had never met aliens. No human had. There were theories, there were stories, but no proof, until now. "Try to contact them," he ordered. "All frequencies, send a greeting message." Minyu worked quickly. His fingers danced over the controls. "Message sent, Captain. Standard first contact protocol." They waited. The alien ship came closer. It was 10 times bigger than maybe more. Then Minyu's console made a sound. "Captain, they are scanning us." On the bridge, everyone went quiet. They could feel it somehow. Invisible waves of energy moving through their ship, reading everything. Their engines, their weapons, their hull, even their bodies. In the alien ship, Commander watched the data flow across his viewing membrane. He was a member of the species that ruled 17 star systems. His body was covered in hard black plates. He had 6 legs and 4 arms. His eyes were compound, like an insect's, and they saw in spectrums that other beings could not imagine. They had been conquering worlds for 1,000 years. They had never lost a war. They had never met a species they could not defeat. They were strong. They were fast. They had the best weapons in the galaxy. And now they had found something new. "Report," commanded. His voice was like stones grinding together. "The alien vessel is primitive," his science officer said. "Slow propulsion, thin armor, minimal weapons, no shields of any kind. And the creatures inside. Soft bodies, no natural defenses, no claws, no venom, no armor plates. They are warm-blooded, they need to sleep for long periods, they are weak." Felt satisfaction spread through his body. Another easy conquest, another slave species for the Dominion. How many of them? 47 life signs. That is enough for study, decided. Disable their ship, take them alive. The warship, called the Crushing Tide in the human language, moved into attack position. Its weapons powered up with a low hum that vibrated through space itself. On the alarm started screaming. "They are targeting us," shouted. Did not hesitate. Evasive action, all hands brace for impact. But the was slow. It was not made for battle. The first shot from the ship hit them before they could move. The impact threw everyone to the floor. Lights went out. Sparks flew from broken consoles. Somewhere in the ship, metal screamed as it bent and broke. "Engine room hit," reported. She was bleeding from a cut on her head, but she did not seem to notice. "We have lost main power." Another shot. The ship shook like a toy in a child's hand. More alarms, more screams. Medical Officer Lee called from the med bay. Her voice was calm but strained. "Captain, we have casualties. 3 crew members are dead. Many more are injured." 3 dead. Felt the weight of those words like stones in his chest. 3 of his people, gone in seconds. "Can we fight back?" he asked. "Our weapons are offline," the tactical officer reported. "We have nothing." Another hit that was dying, everyone knew it. Looked around his bridge. He saw fear in the eyes of his crew, but he also saw something else. Something that they had not detected in their scans. Something that no machine could measure. He saw determination. "Minyu," he said quietly, "send a distress signal, everything we have, every frequency. Tell them what happened here. Tell them where we are." Minyu nodded and went to work. His fingers moved fast despite the chaos around him. "Signal sent, Captain. Frontier Station will receive it in approximately 6 hours." 6 hours, if anyone survived that long. The ship moved closer. Smaller craft launched from its belly, heading toward the crippled, boarding pods. They were coming to take prisoners. Stood up straight. He touched his uniform and made it neat. When the aliens came, they would find a captain ready to face them. "All security personnel," he announced through the ship's speakers. "Prepare to repel boarders. Everyone else, barricade yourselves in your sections. Do not make it easy for them." Sergeant heard the order in the security office. He was a big man with big hands and a face that had seen many fights. He had 8 people under his command. 8 against, however, many aliens were coming. He smiled. It was not a happy smile. "You heard the captain," he said to his team. "Get your weapons, get ready." Private checked her rifle. She was young, barely 25, but her eyes were steady. "Sergeant, what are we fighting?" "Does it matter?" answered. "They attacked us, they killed our friends, that is all I need to know." The boarding pods attached to this hull with loud metallic sounds. Then came the sound of cutting. The aliens were burning through the metal. And his team waited in the corridor. They had made a barricade from tables and storage containers. It was not much, but it was something. The wall in front of them began to glow red, then orange, then white. Finally, it fell away in a shower of sparks. And they came through. They were terrifying. Tall black shapes covered in armor that seemed to be part of their bodies. They had weapons built into their arms. Their eyes glowed with cold light. There were dozens of them, maybe more. Raised his rifle. "Fire," he shouted. The corridor exploded with light and sound. Human weapons against alien armor. It should have been hopeless. The scan said it should have been hopeless. But the first soldier fell, then the second, then the third. The aliens hesitated. This was not what they expected. These soft creatures were supposed to cower. They were supposed to surrender. Instead, they were fighting. Took a plasma burn to his shoulder. The pain was incredible. He could smell his own flesh burning. But he did not stop. He could not stop. There were people behind him, his people, his friends. He kept firing. Saw a soldier aim at a wounded. She threw herself in front of the shot, taking the hit on her armored vest. It knocked her down, but she got back up and kept fighting. They had expected 47 weak creatures. What they found was 47 humans who would not quit, who would not give up, who would fight until their last breath. In the end, the aliens won. They had to win. There were too many of them. But it cost them 23 soldiers to take a ship with only 8 defenders. Commander watched the battle reports with growing unease. Something was wrong with these creatures. Something his scanners had not seen. "Sedate them all," he ordered. "Take them to the ship for study. I want to know what they are." As the unconscious humans were carried away, looked at the data one more time. Soft bodies, no natural weapons, short lives, weak. So why did they fight like that? It was a question that would haunt him, but he pushed it aside. They were just primitives, weak primitives who had gotten lucky. He did not know that 6 hours away, Admiral Han was about to receive a distress signal. He did not know that his small act of piracy would bring the fury of an entire species down upon his head. He did not know that he had made the worst mistake in the history of the Dominion. But he would learn. They all would. The cells on the warship were cold. Not cold like winter on Earth, cold like space itself. Cold that went through your skin and into your bones and stayed there. Captain Park sat against the metal wall and tried to count his people. It was hard to see. The lights were dim and strange, made for alien eyes, but he could hear them, breathing, moving, some crying softly, some talking in whispers. 31, that was how many he could count. 31 out of 47. The others were dead or missing. His shoulder hurt where a soldier had struck him. His face was swollen. There was dried blood on his uniform, but he was alive, for now. Captain, a voice from the darkness, crawled toward him. Her face was pale, and there was a deep cut on her arm that someone had wrapped with torn cloth. "Are you okay?" "I will live," said. "What about the others?" 12 wounded, some badly, is not with us. They took her somewhere else. Closed his eyes, their medical officer. They had separated her from the group. He did not want to think about why. "And the ship?" he asked. "Dead. They destroyed the engines completely. He is just floating metal now. His ship for 12 years, his home, gone." But there was no time for sadness. Forced himself to stand. His legs were weak, but they held him. "Listen to me," he said, raising his voice so everyone could hear. "We are prisoners, but we are not defeated. We stay together. We help each other. We survive. That is our mission now." Somewhere in the cell, someone laughed bitterly. "Survive for what? No one knows we are here." "Wrong," said Minu. The young communications officer pushed through the crowd. There was hope in his eyes. "I sent the distress signal before they took the ship. I sent it." Silence, then whispers. Then something that had been missing from the cell, hope. "You are certain?" asked. "Yes, Captain. Frontier Station will have received it by now. They know what happened. They know where we are." Nodded slowly. 6 hours for the signal to reach. More hours for ships to come, if ships came at all. But it was something. It was a chance. "Then we wait," he said. "And while we wait, we prepare." In another part of the ship, medical officer Lee opened her eyes. She was lying on a cold metal table. Her arms and legs were bound with metal bands. Above her, strange lights moved and pulsed. She was in some kind of laboratory. Medical equipment surrounded her, but not human equipment. These machines were alien. Wrong. They looked like they were grown rather than built. A scientist leaned over her. Its compound eyes studied her like she was an insect under a glass. "The specimen is awake," it said. Its voice was translated through a device on its chest. The words were flat and without feeling. Another joined the first. "Begin the examination." Felt fear, but she did not show it. She was a doctor. She had studied biology for 20 years. If these creatures wanted to learn about humans, she would teach them. But she would teach them wrong things. "You will answer our questions," the first scientist said. "Tell us about your species." Said nothing. The scientist pressed a button. Pain shot through her body like lightning. Every nerve screamed, but had trained for this. Not exactly this, but close enough. She kept her mouth shut. The pain stopped. "Tell us about your species," the scientist repeated. Took a breath. "What do you want to know? What are your weaknesses? How do we control you?" Thought fast. If she refused to talk, they would torture her. Maybe kill her. But if she talked, she could lie. She could give them false information. She could make them make mistakes. "We are very sensitive to temperature," she said. Her voice was steady. "Cold is deadly to us. Even a small drop in temperature can kill a human in minutes." The scientists looked at each other. Their compound eyes flickered with what might have been excitement. "What else?" "We need to eat constantly. If we go more than a few hours without food, we become weak and die." More lies. Humans could survive for weeks without food, days without water. They were tough, much tougher than they looked. But they did not know this. They wrote everything down in their strange alien language. They believed her. Smiled inside. Let them think we are weak. Let them think we are fragile. When the time comes, they will learn the truth. Back in the cells had organized the prisoners. They worked in teams now. Some watched the guards, learning their patterns. Some tended to the wounded. Some looked for weaknesses in the cell walls. And some communicated. Sergeant sat in the corner, tapping his finger against the metal floor. It looked random. It was not. The sound traveled through the floor and walls to the next cell. There, another human listened and tapped back. It was an old code, very old. Humans had used it for hundreds of years since the time of prisoners and wars on Earth. They did not recognize it. To them, it was just nervous creatures making noise. But to the humans, it was a conversation. 20 guards this level tapped. Shift change every 4 hours. They do not watch us closely. From the next cell the answer came. Maintenance shaft in corner, weak point. Can reach engineering section. Had found that weak point. She had spent hours studying the cell, looking at every wall and floor panel. They had built their ship well, but they had never expected their prisoners to look for escape routes. They did not understand humans. The third day came. The scientists had examined 12 humans now. They had taken blood samples. They had tested reflexes. They had measured everything that could be measured. Their conclusion: humans were weak. Commander read the report with satisfaction. So we have found another slave species. Yes, Commander, the chief scientist said. They are strong enough for labor but too weak to resist. Their bones break easily. Their skin cuts easily. They tire quickly. Then they will serve the Dominion. There is one concern, the scientist added. Their behavior is unusual. Unusual how? They cooperate with each other. Even in the cells, they work together. They share food. They help their wounded. We have not seen this level of cooperation in other species. Waved a limb dismissively. Herd behavior. Prey animals often stay in groups for safety. It means nothing. But the scientist was not so sure. There is something else. When we interrogate them, they lie. They give us false information. We tested their responses about temperature sensitivity, and the data does not match. They lie, was surprised. Lying was a complex behavior. Most primitive species could not do it well. Yes, consistently and convincingly. It suggests higher intelligence than our initial scans showed. Considered this. For a moment he felt something like concern, but then he pushed it away. It did not matter how smart these creatures were. They had conquered smarter species before. Continue the examinations, he ordered. Learn everything you can. Far away, on Frontier Station, Admiral Hand stood in the command center and watched the distress signal play again. This is survey ship. We are under attack by unknown alien vessel. 3 crew dead. Ship disabled. Coordinates follow. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. The message ended, played it again, and again. Around her, officers waited in silence. They knew what this meant. First contact, not peaceful, not friendly, an attack on a human ship, dead humans. How far? Asked. 18 days at maximum speed, her navigator answered. 18 days, a long time. Those people might not have 18 days. What ships do we have? The Third Fleet is stationed here. 6 heavy cruisers, 12 destroyers, 2 carriers with full fighter wings. Battleship is ready for deployment. Nodded slowly. The Third Fleet was not the biggest in the human navy, but it was enough. It had to be enough. Send word to all ships, she said. Her voice was cold and hard. We leave in 2 hours, maximum speed. Admiral, the communications officer said carefully, we do not know what we are facing. The alien vessel disabled a survey ship in seconds. We should wait for more support. turned to look at him. Her eyes were like ice. There are 47 humans out there, prisoners of an alien species that attacked without warning, killed without reason. We do not wait, we do not hesitate, we go. But Admiral, No stepped closer to him. Let me tell you something about humans. When one of us is in danger, we do not calculate the risks. We do not weigh the costs. We go, because that is what we are. That is what makes us human. She turned back to the main screen. Send the order. Third Fleet moves in 2 hours, and send a message to every human ship within range. Tell them what happened. Tell them where we are going. Every ship, that could take time. Every ship. His voice left no room for argument. This is not just about 47 people. This is about who we are. When someone attacks us, they attack all of us, and all of us respond. The order went out. Across human space, ships received the message. Military vessels, merchant ships, mining craft, colony transports. They all heard the same thing: humans had been attacked. Humans were prisoners. Humans needed help. And one by one, they changed course. In his cell on the crushing tide, Captain Park did not know this. He did not know that ships were coming. He only knew that his people were alive and that they were not giving up. He tapped a message on the wall to the next cell. Stay strong. Help is coming. He did not know if it was true, but he believed it, and sometimes belief is enough. Private received the message and passed it on. Through the ship, from cell to cell, the words traveled. Stay strong. Help is coming. The guards heard the tapping but ignored it. Just nervous prisoners making noise. Nothing important. They were wrong. Everything the humans did was important. Every tap, every whisper, every shared meal and bandaged wound. They were preparing, learning, waiting. Because that was what humans did. They endured, they adapted, they survived. And when the time was right, they fought. Commander would learn this soon. The whole Dominion would learn it. But for now, the humans waited in the cold cells of the alien ship, tapping their messages through the walls, keeping hope alive in the darkness. Help was coming. They just had to hold on long enough to see it. The Third Fleet dropped out of hyperspace on the 12th day. 23 warships arranged in perfect formation, their weapons hot, their shields raised, their crews ready for battle. Admiral Hand stood on the bridge of the battleship and looked at the enemy. 47 warships waited for them. Behind those ships was a dark planet covered in black cities and industrial zones. 47 against 23. Bad odds, very bad odds. Admiral, her tactical officer, said, the enemy fleet is moving to intercept. They outnumber us 2 to 1. I can count, replied. What about our people? The warship that captured them is at the back of the formation. It appears damaged, reduced engine power. Damaged allowed herself a small smile. The prisoners had done something. They were still fighting. All ships, she announced through the fleet communications. This is Admiral Han. We are here for our people. The enemy thinks we are weak. They think we will retreat. They are wrong. Today, we show them what humans can do. The battle began. The ships fired first. Their plasma cannons lit up space with deadly green light. The first volley hit the destroyer, burning through its forward shields and damaging the hull. Reports casualties, the tactical officer said. They are continuing to fight. Of course they are, said. Return fire all ships. Human weapons answered. Rail guns hurled tungsten slugs at incredible speeds. Missiles streaked through the void, their warheads seeking enemy targets. Laser batteries carved lines of fire across hulls. The first ship exploded, then the second, then the third. The aliens had expected an easy victory. They had expected the humans to break and run like other species. Instead, they found themselves in the fight of their lives. Commander watched from the crushing tide as his fleet struggled. What is happening? He demanded. Why are they not retreating? Unknown, Commander, his tactical officer replied. Their tactics are unlike anything we have seen. They sacrifice themselves to protect damaged ships. They fly directly into our fire to get close enough to use their kinetic weapons. They are insane. Perhaps, but they are winning. Directed the battle like a conductor leading an orchestra. Every move was precise. Every order was clear. She knew her ships. She knew her captains. She knew exactly what they could do. Cruiser Group Alpha pushed through their left flank. Destroyers screened the carriers. I want fighters in space now. The carriers and launched their fighters. Hundreds of small craft poured into the battle, targeting enemy weapons and engines. They were like wasps attacking a giant, stinging again and again. They tried to adapt. They concentrated fire on the human battleship. They rocked under the assault. Alarms screamed. Hull breaches appeared on multiple decks. Did not flinch. Damage report. Decks 7 through 12 compromised. 63 casualties. Main power stable. Keep firing. The battle raged for 3 hours. Ships died on both sides. The destroyer was cut in half by concentrated plasma fire. The cruiser took critical damage and began to drift. Captain Commander of the saw that his ship was dying. He also saw that a carrier was directly ahead, launching more fighters. Helm, he said quietly, set collision course. His crew did not hesitate. They understood. The burn toward the enemy carrier. They tried to destroy it, but the cruiser kept coming. Even when its engines failed, its momentum carried it forward. The collision was spectacular. 2 ships died together in a ball of fire that could be seen from 1,000 kilometers away. Captain and his crew were gone, but so were 5,000 soldiers and 100 enemy fighters. Felt the loss like a blow to the heart, had been her friend. They had served together for 20 years, but there was no time for grief. The battle was not over. Push forward, she ordered. We are through the worst of it. She was right. The fleet was breaking. Too many ships lost. Too many soldiers dead. They had never faced an enemy like this. An enemy who would not stop, would not retreat, would not give up. The remaining ships pulled back toward there. Some tried to flee. Human destroyers chased them down. Commander's ship is trying to escape, the tactical officer reported, heading for the far side of the planet. No, said, that ship has our people. I want it stopped. Admiral, we do not have enough ships to pursue and maintain the blockade. Was about to respond when another signal appeared on her sensors, then another, then a dozen more. New ships were arriving, ships she had not called, ships she had not expected. Admiral, we have multiple contacts entering the system. They are identifying as human vessels. How many? Currently, 212, more arriving every minute. Stared at the screen, mining ships from the outer colonies, cargo haulers from the trade routes, research vessels, private yachts, even a cruise liner, its luxury decks now filled with armed volunteers. They had all come. When they heard what happened, they had all come. Word of the attack had spread through human space like fire. The message was simple. One of our ships was attacked. Our people were taken, and the Navy is going to get them back. Humans did not need orders to respond to that message. They just came. Admiral Han, a voice crackled through the communications system. This is mining vessel. We are not military, but we have heavy cutting lasers and crews who know how to use them. Where do you need us? Another voice, cargo ship reporting. We retrofitted our hull with armored plating. Point us at the enemy. Another, research vessel Ulsan here. We have scientists, but they have been practicing with the emergency weapons. Put us in the fight. Felt tears in her eyes. She did not hide them. There was no shame in crying at something this beautiful. All ships, she said, her voice thick with emotion, welcome to the Third Fleet. Today we are all one Navy. Today we are all human. The flood of civilian ships changed everything. They had calculated that they could overwhelm 23 warships. They had not calculated 300. watched in horror as human vessels surrounded his. Mining lasers cut into orbital defenses. Cargo ships rammed enemy stations. The cruise liner, its entertainment decks converted to fighter bays, launched wave after wave of improvised combat craft. "This is impossible," said. "No species does this. No species sacrifices so much for so few." His science officer had no answer. Nothing in history had prepared them for this. They conquered. They enslaved. They ruled. But they had never faced a species that would burn the galaxy to rescue 47 prisoners. On the surface of the High Council held an emergency session. They could see the battle in their skis. They could see their fleet dying. "We must surrender," one council member said. "If we do not, they will destroy everything." "Surrender to these primitives," another member demanded. "Never. Then you will watch our civilization burn. These creatures do not fight like normal species. They do not make rational choices. They would rather die than accept defeat." The council argued while ships exploded above them. Meanwhile, Admiral gave her final order. "All units focus fire on the crushing tide. That is where our people are. Disable it, but do not destroy it. We are going in." The Marine transport ship moved through the battle. It was a small vessel designed for one purpose, putting soldiers on enemy ships. Major O led the Marine strike team. 50 soldiers in heavy combat armor, armed with the best weapons humanity could build. They had trained for years for missions like this. This was their moment. "Marines," said as the transport approached the crushing tide, "we are going into that ship to rescue our people. The aliens inside do not know what is coming for them. Let us teach them." The transport locked onto the warship's hull. Cutting charges burned through the metal. The Marines poured inside. What followed was not a battle, it was a reckoning. The Marines moved through the alien ship like death itself. Every room they entered, every corridor they swept, more fell. Led from the front, his rifle finding target after target. They found the first group of prisoners on level 3, wounded, starving, but alive. When they saw human Marines coming through the door, some of them cried, some laughed, some just stared in disbelief. "We are here to take you home," told them. "Where are the others?" A young woman with bandaged hands pointed toward the inner decks. "Captain led a group to the engineering section. They were holding it when we lost contact." Nodded. "Stay here. Secure the area. We are not leaving without everyone." The Marines pushed deeper into the ship. They fought through defenders. They breached blast doors. They cleared room after room. And finally, they found them. Captain Park stood in the engineering section with the last of his people. 18 survivors out of the original 31. They had been holding this position for 6 hours, fighting off wave after wave of soldiers with stolen weapons and improvised defenses. They looked like ghosts, pale, thin, covered in blood and burns. But they were still standing. Stepped through the shattered doorway. He looked at him. "Captain Park?" asked. "Yes." "Major O, Human Marines. We are here to bring you home, sir." Swayed on his feet, Sergeant caught him before he could fall. "How many ships came?" asked. The same question he had been asking for 12 days, the question that had kept him fighting. Smiled. "All of them, sir. Everyone came." Closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they were wet. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you." The evacuation took 2 hours. Every surviving prisoner was carried or walked to the Marine transport. Medical teams treated the wounded. Officers recorded names and conditions. 29 humans left the crushing tide alive. 18 others had died during captivity. Their bodies were recovered too. No one would be left behind. As the transport pulled away from the dying ship, looked out the window at the battle still raging in space. He saw human ships everywhere, military vessels, civilian ships, a whole fleet of ordinary people who had come to rescue strangers. "We really are not alone," he said softly. sat beside him, her burned hands wrapped in bandages. "We never were, Captain. We just forgot for a while." In orbit around the Admiral received word that all prisoners were secure. She allowed herself one moment of relief, one moment of joy. Then she turned back to the battle. It was not over yet. There was still work to do. But the hardest part was done. They had found their people. They had brought them home. And they would never forget what happened when they chose the wrong species to provoke. When it was over, the sky was filled with broken ships. Over 160 vessels had been destroyed. The orbital stations were burning. The planetary defense grid was silent. The greatest military power in the sector had been crushed in a single day. The humans had lost 53 ships. 4,200 humans died in the battle. Each name was recorded. Each death was mourned. But there was no time to stop. Not yet. Admiral Han stood on the bridge of the and looked at the fallen world below. They had conquered 17 star systems. They had enslaved billions of beings. They had thought they were unstoppable. They had been wrong. "Admiral," her communications officer said, "we are receiving a transmission from the planet's surface. The High Council wishes to discuss terms of surrender." Surrender. The word hung in the air like smoke after a fire. Nodded slowly, put them through. The main screen flickered. Appeared, its compound eyes dull with defeat. It was a council elder, once proud and powerful. Now it looked broken. "Human Commander," they said through a translator, "we request a cessation of hostilities. We acknowledge our defeat. We will accept your terms." "My terms are simple," said. Her voice was cold iron. "Release all prisoners from your slave systems. Every being you have taken from every world you have conquered. They go free." "That is acceptable." "Withdraw from all occupied territories. Return them to their original inhabitants. You will keep only your original system." The Slims trembled. "You ask us to abandon our entire empire. You attacked my people. You killed my friends. You made us come here and take back what you stole. I am not asking, I am telling." "Silence, then we will comply." "Finally, Commander, the one who ordered the attack on our ship, bring him to me." "He is no longer aboard the crushing tide. He attempted to escape in a shuttle during the final assault. His shuttle was destroyed." Felt a flash of anger. She had wanted to look him in the eyes. She had wanted him to see what his arrogance had cost his people. But dead was dead. It would have to be enough. "The war is over," she said. "But know this. If any ship attacks any human vessel ever again, we will not stop at your. We will hunt every in the galaxy. We will burn every world you touch. We will not rest until your species is nothing but a footnote in history. Do you understand?" The elder lowered its head. "We understand." The transmission ended. Sat down in her command chair and let out a long breath. It was done. They had won. Around her, the bridge crew was silent. They were all exhausted. They had been fighting for hours without rest. Many had lost friends in the battle. Some had lost family. "Admiral," the navigation officer said softly, "what do we do now?" Looked out at the stars. "We go home, we take our people home, and we remember what happened here." 3 weeks later, the survivors of the arrived at Earth. The transport ship descended through blue skies and white clouds, landing at the main spaceport in Seoul. Crowds had gathered to welcome them. Thousands of people stood in the rain, holding signs and flowers and flags. Captain Park walked down the ramp first. He was still thin from his ordeal. There were new scars on his face and hands, but his back was straight and his eyes were clear. Behind him came the others, with her bandaged hands, who had survived her time in the alien research lab, still moving carefully because of his wounds, young and fierce and alive. Minyu, who had sent the distress signal that saved them all. 29 survivors, 29 humans who had endured the impossible. The crowd cheered when they saw them. People cried and shouted and reached out to touch them. There were reporters and cameras and officials wanting to shake their hands. But walked past all of them. He walked to a small group standing at the edge of the crowd. Families, the families of those who had not come home. He stopped in front of a woman holding a small child. She looked at him with eyes full of grief. "Your husband," said quietly, "was one of the bravest men I ever knew. He died protecting others. He saved lives. I wish I could have brought him back to you." The woman nodded. Tears fell down her face. "Thank you for telling me. Thank you for being there with him." Went to each family. One by one he told them about their loved ones, how they had lived, how they had fought, how they had died. He gave them what he could, words, memories, the truth. It was the hardest thing he had ever done, but it was necessary. Later, there was a ceremony. The government awarded medals to the survivors. There were speeches about courage and sacrifice and the human spirit. News networks broadcast the event to every colony in human space. But the most important moment came afterward. Admiral found him standing alone on a balcony, looking up at the night sky. "Captain," she said, "how are you holding up?" "I will survive," he answered. "That is what humans do." Nodded, she stood beside him and looked at the stars. "I read your reports, what you did on that ship, keeping your people together, the uprising in the cells. It was remarkable. We did what we had to do. Most species would have given up. The own records say so. Every other race they conquered surrendered within hours. Your people held out for 12 days and fought back the entire time." Was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "When I was a child, my grandmother told me a story. She said that long ago our ancestors lived in caves and hunted with sharp rocks. The world was full of creatures bigger and stronger and faster than us. Lions and bears and wolves. We should have died. We should have been extinct. But we were not," said. "No, because we had something the other creatures did not have. We had each other. When one human was in danger, the others came. When one human fell, the others carried them. We survived not because we were the strongest, but because we refused to let each other fall." Thought about the 300 ships that had come to the system. Miners and traders and scientists and tourists. People who had nothing to gain and everything to lose. They had come anyway. "They never understood that," she said. "No, they saw individual humans and saw weakness. They did not see what we become when we stand together." The news of the battle of the spread across the galaxy. Other species heard the story and were amazed. These soft creatures, these fragile beings with no natural weapons, had defeated one of the most powerful empires in the sector. How, they asked, how did they do it? The answer was always the same. They fought for each other. They refused to give up. They came when their people needed them, no matter the cost. Other empires took notice. Suddenly, the human territories seemed less like easy targets and more like danger zones. No one wanted to repeat this mistake. No one wanted to be the next species to learn what happens when you provoke humanity. In the years that followed, the galaxy changed. The Dominion collapsed. Their slave worlds were freed. New governments rose from the ashes, and humans were at the center of it all, not as conquerors but as protectors. Ships from Earth helped rebuild broken worlds. Human doctors treated alien wounded. Human engineers repaired damaged cities. The species that had arrived with weapons stayed with tools and medicine. It was a new era. An era of cooperation instead of conquest. An era where strength was measured not by how many worlds you could take, but by how many beings you could help. And it had all started with one small survey ship and 47 people who refused to be forgotten. Years later, Captain Park returned to space. He commanded a new ship, the II. It was bigger than the original, better equipped, better armed. But its mission was the same: exploration, discovery, reaching out to the unknown. On the bridge, surrounded by a new crew, looked at the stars and smiled. He was older now. His hair was white. His body carried scars that would never fully heal. But he was alive, his people were alive, and humanity was still reaching for the stars. Was there too, serving as chief engineer once again. Her hands had healed, though she would always have trouble with fine movements. She did not care. There was no place she would rather be. Sargent had retired from security work. He spent his days teaching young soldiers at the academy, passing on everything he had learned about survival and courage, and never giving up. Private had become an officer. She commanded her own ship now, patrolling the borders of human space. Every time she met a new species, she remembered what they had taught her: never underestimate anyone. Minyu had written a book about their experience. It was required reading at every military academy in human space. The chapter on sending the distress signal was considered one of the most important moments in human history. And medical officer Lee had become the leading expert on alien biology. She used everything she had learned on the crushing tide to help humans understand other species better, to help them find common ground instead of conflict. They had all changed. They had all grown. They had all carried the weight of what happened and found ways to keep moving forward. That was what humans did. They endured, they adapted, they survived. One evening, sat in his quarters and looked at an old photograph. It showed the original crew of the taken the day before they launched on their final mission. 47 smiling faces, some young, some old, all of them full of hope for the adventure ahead. 18 of those faces were gone now, lost to violence and cruelty and war. But 29 had survived. 29 had come home, and their story had inspired billions across the galaxy. The door chimed, put the photograph away, and said, "Come in." A young officer entered. She was new to the crew, fresh from the academy. Her eyes were bright with excitement. "Captain, we have detected an unknown signal in the next system. It appears to be artificial." Felt the old familiar thrill, the excitement of discovery, the wonder of the unknown. "Set a course," he said. "Let us see what is out there." The II turned toward the stars. A new adventure was beginning. New species to meet, new wonders to discover, new challenges to face. But whatever they found, they would face it together. That was the human way. That was what made them strong. They had analyzed the human ship. They had measured the hull and the weapons and the engines. They had scanned the bodies and counted the teeth and tested the reflexes. And they had missed everything that mattered. They had missed the fire in human hearts, the bonds between human souls, the absolute refusal to abandon their own. They had seen weakness where there was strength. They had seen prey where there were predators. They had chosen the wrong species to provoke. And now, as humanity spread across the stars, that lesson echoed through the galaxy, a warning to anyone who might make the same mistake. Do not attack humans. Do not take their people. Do not underestimate what they will do for each other. Because when you hurt one of them, all of them come for you. Every single one.